Elon parents, and welcome back to Between the Oaks, where we introduce you to some of the most important people here on the campus at Elon University. And today we are pleased to be joined by Dr. Jana Lynn Patterson, the Dean of Students here at Elon. So Dr. Patterson, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So you're affectionately known on campus as Dean P.
I am.
And I did a little bit of research ahead of time. You have been at Elon since 1986.
That's correct.
Is that correct? So,
that's correct.
Just real quick, tell us the kind of the origin story and how you got from what you've been doing for 37 years. Obviously, it's several different positions
right.
in the university.
I came as a very young assistant dean of students, very young, at a much smaller Elon, and then just fell in love with the place. And so the nice thing about Elon is if you stay here long enough, you never get bored. So you always have different jobs to do. And at this point, I've overseen every area at one point or another in student life. So that's been great. But more importantly, I've just had the pleasure to work with generations and generations of students and now alums, and now their children are here, and it's just so it's just been such a professional life well lived. And I'm on the downside of that right now, thinking about I'll make it to 40 years here, but we'll see after that.
Well, you may say you're on the downside, but you're still involved in a lot of different things.
I still am.
What are some of the big kind of categories that your job deals with? Because it seems like every time there's something on campus, you're involved in it somehow. So what are kind of the big picture things that you deal with?
I oversee all the health and wellness areas that affect students. So counseling services, student health services, campus recreation and wellness, student care and outreach. I oversee the student conduct, which people might say, how is that a wellness area? But when students are living their life congruent with their values and the university's values, then that certainly is an aspect of wellness. I lead the university's infectious disease response team, which...
So you've been busy?
I've been busy. Was busy prior to COVID. I mean, I'm really proud that the university, just as we plan and strategize about everything, we really began thinking about larger scale outbreaks and emergencies really 10 or 15 years ago. And so we had a good infrastructure in place. We had a mumps outbreak prior to the COVID outbreak, and we managed that very well. So, it's, and then I do just other assorted things. For a long time I was the advisor to SGA. And ended that in March of 22, and my colleague Jody Schmieder took that. So I'm, focusing on some new projects that are related to health and wellness on campus.
There you go, and that's a perfect lead-in. We are here to talk about one of those, specifically student health insurance.
Correct.
And we try to make these videos somewhat timely. So there's a reason that we're talking to you now. And I was talking to some of my colleagues that I was going to talk to you about student health insurance, and they said, well, how are you going to make that interesting? So that's our job for the next couple minutes, is to make student health insurance interesting and entertaining for the folks at home. So just real quick, tell our parents what's going on with student health insurance at Elon and what's new, basically.
Well, we're excited because for the first time in many years, and I mean, back in the late 80s, we offered kind of waiver health insurance for a year, and then for several years had a small policy. But for the first time in many years, we are going to offer a student health insurance plan, and that really comes from several reasons. One is that we really want to be able to better serve our undergraduate and our graduate students, especially those who don't have access to insurance under either a parent's plan or a spouse's plan. And so we're excited that we're going to be able to, this plan will fill a gap for those. Another reason is that we have had numerous inquiries from parents, and they have been growing through the years about why we, would you please offer a student health insurance plan? So we were in the process of it right before COVID. COVID hit. We needed to get through the worst of that, and we picked it up last year. Takes a long, you need a little bit of long lead time to plan it, but we're excited that we're going to offer a program starting this fall. We'll be releasing, we have a marketing plan that we'll be releasing here soon. And so we're excited. We think it's going to serve, like I said, both our undergraduate and our graduate students. It's also a program that's going to better serve our international students. So we're excited about it.
And so this is for the fall, for fall of 2023. And we are recording this in January, but it'll be, we're not sure exactly when this is gonna release, but what's kind of the timeline around what's going on and what needs to happen? Because it is, from my understanding, it is an opt-out
It is an
policy,
opt-out
right?
policy.
So everybody needs to there's action steps that everybody needs to take. So
Absolutely.
what's that look like? What are the time frame for that?
So the first piece will be for us to get an idea of how many students currently have insurance that would meet the criteria. And so prior to enrolling in classes this spring, our students who we plan to be here in the fall will go, they'll take a survey. The survey will say, do you currently have insurance? If they say yes, it will take them to a website to upload their insurance information. At that point, that will be reviewed to make sure whether or not they can opt out or whether they would be required to enroll.
So the students have to have a certain level of insurance?
Yes, it's pretty basic,
right.
But it does provide for basic emergency and some treatment. We know that our students have insurance policies that cover many, many things that are very different when you have students that come from all 50 states.
Sure.
That's what you find. The next step, and if the student does not have insurance, then it will take them to another spot where they'll ask them some additional questions, and then those students will be billed for that after they've registered for class. So it will go on their summer bill.
Okay.
And so, but it's important that students who are planning to come back in the fall, when they start getting this communication about uploading their current insurance information, that they get that done prior to registering for classes, prior to the beginning of March.
Right, so because this is something that students have to do,
Students
right?
have
We're
to
obviously
do it.
talking to parents, and we want them to know what's going on and
Exactly.
to kind of push their students along, but the students actually have to do it,
The
right?
student actually has to do it.
Okay.
And then as long as the student has insurance that meets those criteria, then the student's good. They would not need to do anything else for another year.
Okay.
And then for the students that don't have adequate coverage, then we'll work with them about when it's going to be placed on their student account in the summer. They don't have to pay anything up front. It'll be added to their account in the summer. Now, there will be other folks. We are encouraging parents, and I think that this is important because we get many calls in our office over the summer from parents who don't live in the state who say, who want to buy the student health insurance. One, either because it's a policy that would better fit their students' needs than the policy they're on in their home state. So they may say, I'm going to transfer that student out of my policy into this policy. The other question we're getting is whether it could be used as supplemental or secondary insurance, and the answer is yes. So if folks want to, even though they've got adequate coverage, they can also add on that policy as a supplemental policy, and we get those inquiries, especially from parents whose insurance may have high deductibles, may have very what we call tight managed care systems, where if they needed to see a specialist here, then they would, it would all be out of pocket.
Right.
And so that adds up. If there is a high deductible for emergency response, We've had some students who've had some medical emergencies and had to have surgery, and because their parents, their insurance policy had such a high deductible, it was all out of pocket. Right. So we're really going to encourage parents or spouses or whoever the policy owner is to talk with their insurance representative and think about, could this be a good either a policy for their student, a primary policy for their student, or could it be become a secondary policy? It is a national policy. It is administered through Blue Cross Blue Shield, North Carolina, very reputable company here in North Carolina. It will cover the student anywhere in the continental United States. So if a student is doing an internship or is, studying at one of our domestic centers, academic centers, Elon in LA, Elon in New York, it would cover them there. So there are benefits to folks at least looking closely at it, even if they have adequate coverage.
At least investigate it, right, for sure.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this, from what I've talked to you, like this is something that a lot of schools offer.
Oh, absolutely.
And so explain why is it an opt-out rather than an opt-in?
Because in the state of North Carolina, we can't offer an opt-in policy. If we're going to offer student health, it has to be an opt-out policy.
Okay, so that's not our choice. That's just
right.
So,
right. You either have to offer it as hard waiver, or if someone wants to take it, they can take it as they can opt in anytime they want. But we can't offer a purely voluntary program.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this is something obviously that all parents need to be aware of and know, and there are. Like we said, action steps that need to be done relatively quickly before those students register for the fall. So where can parents get more information about this, and what do they do if they have questions?
Okay. We will be sending information in writing both to students and parents in the next few weeks. Yep. Then we're establishing an independent website. We'll have an independent email account that'll be monitored every business day so that someone can answer their question. Blue Cross and Blue Shield will be ready to answer questions about the policy itself. Yep. Our office will answer questions about kind of process and how this is going to go. Okay. And so we're really, I think that they will hopefully find, and we hope that families, especially as this is our first time, will give us feedback about that communication and that process, because that's how, we certainly want to learn. But we know this is a change for folks. We're going to work through this for folks, but most folks have, most of our students are covered, either under a parent or an employer or a spouse policy or their own policy. And so for those folks, it probably won't be any change. Yeah. But certainly we know that there are questions that folks will have.
For sure. Well, very good. Well, again, be on the lookout for that information. You may have received something already by the time you watch this, or something very soon. So I always like to close these with a little bit of kind of personal thing from our guest, somebody who's been here for a while. Mm-hmm. If you were a parent visiting their student, what's one place they need to go while they're here at Elon or in Burlington or the surrounding area? A place to go out to eat, or a place they need to see, or a place, something to do that somebody from out of town needs to know about? Oh,
locally, I think I would spend time. Well, I would spend time at all the local restaurants. The Pattersons are frequent Friday. They know our Friday night phone-in order at Pandora's Pies.
Get your pizza.
Every Friday night. That's Dr. Patterson, how are things going? When they answer the phone. And so I think that certainly would be, but all of the restaurants around are wonderful. For special occasions, I'm a big fan now of the Mark.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we really don't have that level of special occasion place in Alamance County. Yeah. So
right there on campus. For those of you who don't know, the Mark is the restaurant.
That's right.
In the inn at Elon, the on-campus hotel. So that's a good.
And it's a place just to go if you just want to relax and have some hors d'oeuvres, and some cocktails or wine or coffee or tea, whatever your it's just a lovely place to go sit and unwind, either with your student or without your student.
Awesome. Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and I know all the parents appreciate the good information, and hopefully everything will run smoothly. And
hopefully, when we invite your questions, because I do know that, we ask your help. Sure. We ask their help in urging their students that when they receive the communication about uploading their insurance, that they do that.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time on Between the Oaks. Thank you.
Thank you.